Dear delegates, please take your seats. Can you please take your seats? The panel will start in a few minutes. Please take your seats. Thank you.
Okay. Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants. I'm going to speak in English. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasant honor of moderating the upcoming panel. I would like to apologize for the delay. I was at another meeting. I was assured that it was all right and that people were looking for me, but anyway, I was here. I have the pleasant honor of moderating a topic that is of the utmost importance. And you will agree with me on that, the matter of heritage and cultural diversity in crisis. In crisis because the world is in crisis. The world is in crisis, thus heritage cannot be outside of that crisis. And I have the pleasant honor of introducing this topic with important and distinguished people who will be joining me this afternoon. I have the pleasant honor of calling Her Excellency Madame Anne Captain, Senior Executive. If you are here, Madam, kindly come up with us. It is you. Welcome. Please come up and have a seat. Likewise,
nous aurons également l'occasion d'échanger avec
we'll have the opportunity to exchange with Her Excellency Ms. Biljana Kamour-Veselinovic. Madam Ministry, I'm sorry for making a mess of your name, State Secretary of the Ministry of Civil Affairs of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Likewise, a woman who should have been with us, I don't think she is. I haven't seen her. It's Madame Vicente Maria Lionel Saraiva Yanzere, who is the Minister of Arts, Culture and Tourism for the Central African Republic. She's not with us, however, with us. We will also have occasion to hear by video from Her Excellency Madame Rima Abdul Malak, who is Minister of Culture of France. We will hear her on video. I would likewise call Her Excellency Mrs. Mabrouka Othman, who is the Minister of Culture and Knowledge Development of Libya, to kindly come forward. I believe she's here with us. Madam Mavruka.
Que je n'étais pas la seule,
I think I was not the only one
dans la nature. Je crois que Madame la ministre va se joindre aussi à nous.
to believe that she will be joining
également
us.
Son
Likewise, I would call
Umberto
His
López
Excellency
Lavela,
Mr. Umberto
Directeur
López
général
Lavela,
pour la
Director
diversité,
General for
la
Diversity,
culture,
Cultural
des
Rights,
droits de l'homme du Paraguay. Est-ce
and
que,
processes
le
of
ministre, le directeur
Paraguay.
général,
Is the Director
soyez la
General
bienvenue.
with us? Welcome, sir.
J'appelle également Son
Likewise, I
Excellence
would
Madame
call
Nadia
Her
Doubi
Excellency
Arop
Nadia
Mayom, ministre de la
Doubi
Culture
Arop Mayom, Minister of
de la
Culture,
République du
Museums and
Sud
National
Soudan. Soyez la
Heritage
bienvenue,
from
Madame.
South Sudan
J'appelle
to join
également,
us.
et là, ça
I would
sera
call, likewise,
une vidéo
Her
que nous allons
Excellency,
suivre,
or rather, this will be by video,
Madame Lubana
Ms. Lubana
qui
Mouchawe,
est ministre de la
Minister of
République
Culture,
arabe
rather,
syrienne. Là aussi, ça
for
sera
the
une
Syrian
vidéo.
Arab Republic,
Enfin,
will
nous
be
aurons aussi l'occasion
expressing herself via
d'avoir,
video. We
Son
will also
Excellence
have with
Roberto
us
Martin
His Excellency
Suarez,
Roberto
qui est
Martin Suarez, the
secrétaire
Executive
exécutif du
Secretary
Centre
of the Central
américain pour
American
l'éducation.
Educational and Cultural Coordination.
Et pour terminer,
And
Son
in
Excellence
closing,
José
His Excellency
Ignacio
José
Tirado
Ignacio
Martí,
Tirado Martí, Secretary
Je sais pas
General
si
of
ils sont là,
UNIDROIT.
et là, nous allons
I hope both of these gentlemen are with us today. And with this, we will have completed our list of speakers. I hope I have everyone with me.
Merci beaucoup. Je tiens
Thank you
à
very
rappeler
much.
les règles.
I would like to
Pour
remind
les
everyone
ministres, c'est 5
of
minutes,
the
les observateurs,
rules,
c'est 2
5
minutes.
minutes for
Et j'aurai
member
mon
states and 2
chronomètre
minutes
avec moi
for
pour,
observers.
qu'on
I will
puisse
have
terminer dans
my
le temps
stopwatch
ayant
with me so
déjà
that we can
accusé
remain
un
within our
retard.
time
Sur
limits
ce, je vais
because we're already
commencer
late. And
par,
with this, we will
la
begin
première
by
intervenante, Madame
introducing
Anne
the
Campton.
first speaker,
Que pensez-vous,
Ms.
justement,
Anne Campton,
Madame, la ministre de la
Minister.
question du patrimoine?
What do you think, Madam Senior Executive, what do you think of this matter of heritage and cultural diversity in crisis? You have the floor.
UNESCO members and guests, I'm here attending this conference on behalf of the Australian Minister for the Arts, Tony Burke. Thank you to our host, Mexico, for working with UNESCO to bring forward this conference at a critical junction when cultural heritage and diversity needs our attention and protection through concerted collaborative policy efforts. Australia is first compelled to condemn Russia's actions leading to the destruction and loss of cultural heritage. According to UNESCO, as of the 14th of September, 190 cultural sites in the Ukraine had been damaged since Russia's unlawful invasion. We call for adherence to the 1954 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict. Australia is home to the world's oldest living culture. Today I'm speaking of Australia's work on the return of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ancestral human remains and cultural property. Australia acknowledges the importance of respecting and promoting Indigenous peoples' rights to care for their ancestors. Under the principles of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, the return of ancestors is a basic human right, and Australia has supported this for over 30 years. This has seen the return of over 1,600 ancestors and nearly 2,000 cultural heritage objects from overseas collections, along with the return of over 2,800 ancestors and 2,300 sacred objects held in major Australian collections to their traditional custodians. While this is a significant progress, work is ongoing to progress the repatriation of ancestors held in 100 collecting institutions and private holders in more than 20 countries. This requires ongoing advocacy and a global change in collection ethics and practice. There is no international legal framework that compels a foreign institution to repatriate. Australia's success in repatriation is through advocacy and ongoing dialogue to raise awareness of the significance of repatriation to First Nations peoples. I take this opportunity to thank UNESCO member nations that have already contributed to Australia's repatriation efforts and encourage others to support the return of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ancestors still held in their institutions. Australia is equally committed to the protection of cultural heritage and the return of cultural property, and has returned objects to a number of countries present here today, including our host Mexico. We expect to make further returns to foreign governments in the coming months. The operation of Australian legislation on movable cultural heritage does not depend on other countries being party to the UNESCO 1970 Convention, as we do not wish to place unnecessary limits on the fight against illicit trafficking of cultural material. I thank UNESCO and the Mexican government for convening this conference, and I look forward to continuing fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very
Merci
much
Madame la
to
Ministre.
Madam Minister.
Je passe la
I
parole
would now
à
give
la
the floor
Ministre de
to the
Bosnie-Herzégovine.
Minister from
Madame
Bosnia and Herzegovina, Madam Biljana Kamur-Veselinovic. You have the floor, Madam.
Distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear hosts, it's my honor and pleasure to greet you on behalf of the Ministry of Civil Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I want to express our pleasure to attend the UNESCO World Conference on Cultural Policies and Sustainable Development, Mondiacult 2022. First of all, I would like to congratulate our hosts for extraordinary organization of the World Conference and great hospitality. I would like to emphasize the excellent cooperation we have with UNESCO in the framework of many activities in the field of culture, which are implemented both in Bosnia and Herzegovina and regionally. Through its mission, UNESCO contributes to peace by promoting cooperation between nations. In the period when the whole world was facing the COVID-19 pandemic, UNESCO has once again demonstrated its ability to respond to key global challenges. Bosnia and Herzegovina has ratified all UNESCO conventions in the field of culture, and we are committed to their implementation. We put special emphasis on international cooperation in this field, on the implementation of international conventions, in particular the UNESCO Convention on the Protection and Preservation of Cultural and Natural Heritage. Unfortunately, today, as we mark the 50th anniversary of this UNESCO 1972 Convention, we are facing major challenges caused by climate change, which are among the greatest threats to the preservation of cultural and natural heritage. The activities of UNESCO are therefore very important in order to jointly investigate and analyze all the causal links between culture and climate change. Through reports on the state of preservation of world cultural and natural heritage sites, we monitor and see how sensitive world heritage is, considering the impacts of climate change in all regions of the world. Our opinion is that we must respond urgently and define protection measures, establish mechanisms for cooperation between governments, experts, international organizations, and other stakeholders who can help. This is a global challenge in which educational and scientific institutions play a major role. No less important are the strategies of the government, but also the involvement of the whole public. Through the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, we have accepted the commitment to implement measures and activities aimed at reducing the harmful effects of climate change and its negative impact. Bosnia and Herzegovina is especially committed to the realization of the goals of sustainable development. In cooperation with the UNESCO office in Sarajevo, we are successfully cooperating on the identification of key indicators in the cultural sector, which will contribute to better strategic planning. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we consider the cultural diversity which we inherit to be an extremely important factor in sustainable development and social cohesion. For us, cooperation in the field of the fight against illicit trafficking of cultural property and strengthening capacity in this area is also very important. Digitization and the introduction of new technologies is an area where we want to pay our attention also. We believe that culture can greatly contribute to strengthening cooperation between countries in order to address many of the challenges we face. Allow me to express our support for the proposed declaration and to emphasize our commitment to actively cooperate with UNESCO and all member states in order to achieve the set goals. Thank you for your attention.
Merci,
Thank you,
la ministre.
Madam Minister.
Vous avez insisté sur la
Particularly, you insisted on the need to promote cooperation. This is of the utmost importance, and UNESCO is involved in that, and the matters in terms of climate change, etc. And now, given that the minister from the Central African Republic is not with us, I would like to ask the technicians to please play the French video from Madame Rima Abdul Malak. Madame Director General, dear Audrey Azoulay, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, dear friends, it is with immense pleasure that I'm addressing you on the occasion of this historical event. First of all, allow me to congratulate UNESCO and Mexico for the organization of this event that is of such breadth that it brings together delegations from the entire world after the health crisis. This proves that culture is something that is truly shared. I would like to begin by reading a few verses of the Mexican poet Octavio Paz, who, during his personal life, was intimately tied to France. One must sleep with eyes open. One must dream with the hands, dream the living dreams of a river that seeks its coasts, dreaming a sun that dreams of worlds. I found this text to be magnificent, and I hope that this extract can guide us during our work and in the objectives that are ours today. 40 years after the first Mondiacult conference, and when the challenges tied to climate change and peace in the world must more than ever mobilize us and push us to reinvent ourselves. Let us not close our eyes. Let us not bring our arms down. Let us not stop dreaming. I cannot take the floor today without giving a word of friendship and support to Ukraine, where its historical and artistic community are weakened. The actions launched and sustained by UNESCO represent for France one of the most important commitments, I think notably of the International Fund for Cultural Diversity, a tool that's indispensable for promoting and protecting cultural diversity in the world. You know it, France is truly committed in favor of this fund, and I am counting on all of our partners to reinforce the contributions. Culture today is undergoing great, deep transformations, the result of the digital revolution that is turning our societies around. The basis of the Convention for the Protection and Promotion of Cultural Expressions and their diversity are more than ever something of a matter today within a technological space that brings opportunities and progress. In view of the risks that have an effect on heritage, climate change, and the destruction, in view of conflicts, looting in illicit traffic, it is indispensable that we reinforce collective action to sustain collective mechanisms. And it's also within this objective that France is supporting the Alice International Foundation that has the vocation of supporting cultural heritage for areas in conflict. I would like to close by bringing to mind some of the great challenges of our era. Let us recall that in June 1978, Mr. Amadou Matar Mbo, Director General of UNESCO, launched a historical call for the restitution of cultural goods so that they could be reinstituted, he said, at least in terms of the objects of art that were most representative. The path was long and sinuous, but with the support of the President, Emmanuel Macron,
concernant la restitution d'œuvres du patrimoine africain.
France committed to changing the paradigm for these works of art in Africa. It is a new time. It's indispensable to tie in the youth of both continents, Europe and Africa. I wish you all a useful and productive conference. Thank you so very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. I would give the floor now to the Minister Mabrouka, Minister of Culture, Knowledge Development of Libya. You have the floor, Madam. 5 minutes.
In the name of God, the most gracious and merciful, the Excellencies, ministers, delegations, ladies and gentlemen, may the peace of God be upon you. I'd like to congratulate the country of Mexico and UNESCO for participating as a participant in this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, in the name of my country, and I would like to talk about or thank the efforts of UNESCO and the country of Mexico for organizing this meeting. The Ministry of Development in Libya considers this a very important event. At the same time, the world sees a great deal of problems. What Libya has gone through and the Arab world has gone through, all these challenges that they have dealt with, this was great. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you, in the name of Libya, we are with you. These circumstances did not prevent us from working with you. And on this occasion, I would like to remind everyone of the historic patrimoine of our country, Libya, or heritage of Libya. Libya is one of the smallest number of countries that have a great deal of history that links us with links the north and the south. With relationship with Roman and Shahad in the west of Libya. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to say, and I wanted to draw your attention and the attention of UNESCO, because it knows Libya, and would like to thank them for their cooperation, and we would like to ask them to continue this process. Libya is seeing a great deal of activities on the cultural level to support the relationship of Libya on the level of on the international level, and we hope all the success for this organization and for this conference. And we would like to thank Mexico, the government of Mexico, and for organizing this conference. And I would like to make a few recommendations, first of all, stressing on the importance of human values and the importance of raising the level of culture so that it serves the human good. Secondly, we need to adopt the mechanism of discussion in order to resolve all the conflicts between the countries. And we would like also to have or institute an international observatory for peace and security. We would like also to have a fora for the cultural importance of the cultural heritage. And I would like to congratulate Mexico, the government of Mexico, and the people of Mexico for having organized this conference in order to reach peace and stability in the world. Thank you very much, and may the peace of God be upon you.
Merci, Madame la Ministre.
Thank you very much, Madame, and I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Humberto López. You have the floor, Excellency. He's the Director General for Cultural Diversity, Rights and Processes of Paraguay. Good afternoon to all. In the gentle Guarani language, I cordially greet each and every one of you on behalf of Paraguay, and in particular on behalf of Rubén Capdevila, our Minister of Culture, who is very sorry not to be here at this important event and has given me the honor to represent him. It's a pleasure to participate in this World Conference on Cultural Policies and Sustainable Development, Mondiacult 2022, a timely event that we celebrate from the National Ministry of Culture in Paraguay because of the importance and the need to review cultural policies today and adapt them to face better the contemporary challenges in the cultural sector that will make it possible to have a greater visibility to the impact on the contribution of culture to the development of our people. So we congratulate the government of Mexico for hosting this event and to UNESCO for promoting it, and I express my greatest desire that this conference will go well, which already provides a new impetus to the global policy dialogue regarding culture. Paraguay is a multilingual and multicultural country with 19 indigenous peoples that are 5 linguistic languages and 2 official languages, Guarani and Spanish. And it is composed, in addition, by a melting pot of migrant and Afro-descendant cultures who currently conform the national cultural diversity and constitute our identity. But we should consider the increasing threats faced by cultural diversity and heritage, especially in situations of crisis, social conflicts, or natural hazards. These require that we reinforce our cultural policies that will promote, protect, safeguard, and guarantee the cultural, individual, and collective rights of the cultural and linguistic diversity of our countries within a framework of tolerance, respect, and mutual recognition that will enable us to build a more sustainable future and one that's more just and inclusive in our societies. We consider that each region is the bearer of a valuable legacy and heritage, but however, all of the efforts for safeguarding, in particular, the very rich and deep cultural and intangible cultural heritage of which the First Peoples, the artisans, the minority cultural groups are bearers, these efforts are not enough. In our country, we've begun an interministerial campaign to safeguard these expressions, this very valuable legacy. The recently approved cultural heritage law has enabled us to incorporate new mechanisms that will protect cultural heritage. Nonetheless, it's necessary to increase the resources that are available for this. The exceptional situation generated by the COVID-19 pandemic has affected largely or greatly the programs that are linked to the protection and promotion of our cultural heritage, and we very much need the support of international organisms like UNESCO and the urgent support and imperative when languages from that of the people Mandri and ceremonies from those of the Paitaitera or artisanal techniques are in danger of extinction. In this crisis, Paraguay has promoted and strengthened the links with the actors in civil society, academia, and the private sector, who took on a very important role in terms of dealing with this crisis, both from the National Cultural Council as well as from the technical panels that have to do with culture and the sectors of Afro-descendants, audiovisual, scenic arts, visual arts, music, community culture, books, and other sectors of the cultural and creative economy by creating certain institutions that are decentralized and that can help us. Lastly, at the government of our, we highlight the importance of cultural diplomacy as a tool to move forward intercultural and multicultural dialogue at the regional and global level to rise to the challenges of today. And with that, our interest of promoting international cultural cooperation based on partnerships with shared values, such as the respect for fundamental human rights, the protection of cultural and natural heritage, and the respect for cultural diversity as the greatest richness of humanity. Aguye, thank you. Thank you very much, and I now give the floor to Madam Minister from South Sudan. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Moderator. My colleague, the ministers who came from various countries, the government of Mexico representative and UNESCO representative who are present here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, organizers, I greet you all. It is my honor to be a part of this important conference, the Mondiacult 2022, to discuss the cultural policies and sustainable development on heritage and cultural diversity in crisis. We welcome UNESCO's return to discussing cultural policies instead of just emphasizing on the implementation of culture conventions. While conventions are very important, young nations as such, South Sudan, require UNESCO expertise and critical role in policy advice, such as cultural policy and other specific policies for the sector. We call for international support in those efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of heritage and cultural diversity in crisis is one of the challenges that South Sudan has been experiencing. South Sudan is among the nations that enjoys with the unique cultural diversity with the 64 tribes, which needs preservation and protection from foreign policies, from foreign cultures. My government adopted a national policy for culture, which will give us a room to properly preserve our cultures. Indeed, South Sudan has gone through bitters of various wars that have affected some cultures and heritage. Yes, we agreed with those who say that we cannot treat cultures as a good culture. It is about a people identity. Some countries don't see culture as a tool of peace and unity. Let's go back to our sense and think about where we came from with the development of cultural policies and sustainable development. South Sudan will be among those who will take this dialogue seriously for its implementation. And South Sudan, through this, will be able to overcome all challenges. Though a young nation, we took quickly to ratify 3 conventions, UNESCO Convention of 2003, 2005, and 72 in 2006. This convention gives us the basis to implement activities and respond accordingly. South Sudan is a home to very significant natural sites not known to the world, and their potential are so big to sustainable development of South Sudan. The Buma Badingule migratory landscape is one of the site that covers an estimated area of 37,500 kilometer square. This is the second largest animal migration in the world. Its defining characteristics is the annual white-head cop migration, a natural spectacle of approximately 1 million animals moving in mega herds consistent of thousands of individuals between Buma and Badingule national parks. Sud-Wet, the largest African unique heritage and valuable ecosystem, the second largest wetland in the world. The Sud wetland, with an estimated area of 57,000 kilometers square, represents one of the largest freshwater ecosystems in the world. It is internationally recognized for the unique ecological attributes that include various endangered mammalian and notable wildlife species. The culture and society of 1 million people inhabiting the Sud-West region are closely linked to its ecological functioning. And the cultural crisis has been the challenges for their development. Gaps exist in listing historical monuments of South Sudan. We call upon for international support to inscription of these sites as a World Heritage Property, a step to leave no one behind. The potential of cultural and creativity industries in South Sudan are huge in our socio-economic development. We need a robust policy advice from UNESCO to achieve this potential. We welcome UNESCO EU expert facility, support for new, oh, you're sorry. I'm winding up. Our aim is to organize the sector, address existing gap with a specific policy intervention so that the young nation can catch up with the rest of the world. We call upon the international community to support this effort. I and my colleagues in the leadership would like to seize all the opportunities at our disposal to establish a system of governance for viable cultural sector through the implementation of existing national policies and proactive response to the needs in the sector. We would like also to call upon UNESCO and the international community to support the effort. Thank you so much for your listening.
Désolé, merci.
Thank you, Madam Minister. I'm sorry, but I was told that it was 5 minutes for each panelist, and you went a little bit beyond that in your speech. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have finished with the states, the member states, and now we're going to go ahead with the observers. And here we have 4 individuals, and I will ask each of them when I call them if they would come up to the microphone. And you only have 1 minute, and I really insist on the need. 2 minutes, sorry, 2 minutes. And I'm going to insist that you really not exceed that. So the first is, but before that, we have Syria, Madame Lubana Muchawe, who is going to be, we're going to have a video. So we will pass that video or play that video before we move on with the observers. Can we, or, well, perhaps we're going to continue so that we can make up time. Is that okay? So Syria.
Substance, the protection of the diversity and plurality of the constituting elements of the Syrian community. It ensures that there is no discrimination on the grounds of sex, origin, religion, language, belief, and ensures equal opportunities for all. Throughout its history, which has its roots in the 7th millennium BCE, Syria has been a crossroad for civilization. Terrorism was aimed at tearing apart its geographical unity and striking its cultural diversity. Crimes against culturally specific communities, an essential component of the national fabric, reaches levels of ethnic and sectarian cleansing. Our national cultural strategy is based on protecting, preserving, and safeguarding the sustainability of our tangible and intangible cultural heritage in its real diversity as an important pillar of our collective national identity and as one of the levels of sustainable development and a decisive factor in the consolidation of cohesion, security, and peace. Integrated measures have been taken to protect, preserve, and safeguard the most important parts of the archaeological heritage, protecting museums, and protecting, documenting, accounting for passage and damage, protecting, digitizing the National Archives, conducting emergency work, and supporting and maintaining the historical and archaeological sites, especially in the Aleppo and Palmyra Museum, whose collections have been restored and displayed. Coordination with international bodies and alerting them to the sabotage of infringement of Syrian cultural heritage is ongoing. Archaeological and historical churches and mosques have been renovated as were their damaged collections of icons, paintings, murals, ritual tools, and others which have been restored to where they belong. We have developed an information system of documenting damaged archaeological and historical sites and buildings. We are cooperating with state organizations and all supporters to recover all our looted monuments. We would like to take it up to the youth. Civil society, across the spectrum of its components, organizations, individuals, has become a full partner in developing vision, proposing solutions, evaluating performance, and providing support. With regard to the protection and safeguarding of the intangible Syrian heritage, our projects can be summed as follows: promoting forms of culture, diversity, protecting, safeguarding, and sustainably managing heritage, and ensuring the integration of the cultural communities constituting the Syrian mosaic into protection and safeguarding programs, completing the legislative framework, expanding participation in the governance of this sector, securing digital documentation of the elements of intangible heritage. Syria, the founding country in UNESCO, and which has ratified most conventions. Syria, which has given the world the first alphabet and put on Nougat the first musical note. Syria is the cradle of civilizations. It appeals to all those who would like to safeguard its efforts to safeguard our heritage. This heritage doesn't belong to us. It belongs to humanity. We have to protect it. And the whole humanity has to protect it. Thank you very much. And I wish your conference all success.
Thank you, Madam Minister. And now we will continue with the observers. And I call now His Excellency Roberto Martin from the Central American Educational and Cultural Coordination. Roberto, if you would come up. If you would come up to the microphone. No, apparently. Is Roberto here in the room? Apparently not. Okay. Maybe he will be arriving, and so I'll give the floor to Mr. José Ignacio Tirado Martí. So you have 2 minutes, Mr. José Ignacio.
Organization which was founded in the context of the League of Nations and which has been working for almost 100 years in the creation of a stable legal order in the area of private law. This is a session on crisis, and nothing causes more of a crisis in the area of cultural property than stealing cultural property and illegally trafficking with it. And this is a problem which has continued for many years and which has caused substantial damage, especially to countries, to developing countries and countries which have been weakened by war and other circumstances. So the transnational legal order had to do something about it, and there are instruments there up for grabs which are not as used as they should. Alongside the UNESCO 1970 Convention, whose efficacy depends very much on how well it's implemented in each of the countries, stands tall the UNIDROIT Convention on Stolen and illegally trafficked cultural objects, which is a self-executed treaty and therefore directly applicable, and which is now directly applicable already in 54 states. Allow me to make a mention to the latest comer to the family, the Kingdom of Morocco, and a special reference to the previous country acceding to that, which is Mexico. Muchas gracias, Mexico. Muchas gracias, México.
Thank you very much, Mexico and the Mexican people, for the great impetus that you have given to this convention.
It's a very efficient treaty, which very efficiently provides mechanisms to ensure that illegal trafficking is dealt with and that cultural objects are recovered and restitution happens. And this is done through a number of path-breaking legal instruments, such as, for example, the due diligence, which has been copied by many states and which has been followed by other treaties thereafter, which strikes a perfect balance between the need to protect the market, good faith acquisitions and the market tenure, and on the other hand, the rightful position of states that have been looted and that want their property back where it belongs in their state. I will make one final comment in this regard, which is the fact that UNIDROIT is one of the first instruments which internationally offers full coverage to indigenous art in its different expressions, including also its religious and ritual parts. So to finalize, and thanking you for your time and your patience, the UNIDROIT Convention is widely adopted. It's there. Allow me to make a call for further adoption in your countries. For so long as the UNIDROIT Convention and similar treaties are not fully integrated into the legal framework, there will always be a place which will become a haven for the dealing with cultural property which belongs from another country. And no matter how much that lives in that country, it can't be right. So please do consider this possibility. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Jose. And I give the floor to Mr. Vladimir Aristarkov. Excuse me if I mangled your name, who is the Director of the Heritage Institute. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Здравствуйте, я из России. Странно и печально, что в 21 веке вынуждены говорить о той величайшей угрозе, которую представляет собой для культурного наследия политика ряда государств.
Hello, we are in the 21st century. It is very strange to talk about the cultural policy in this key. Today we heard two lying presentations about what happened in Ukraine, the British presentation and the Ukrainian presentation. Do you know that it's been banned a long time ago in Ukraine to use Russian? Do you know that education in Ukraine in Russian has been banned? Millions of Russians in Ukraine have been Ukrainianized for a long time. The policy of the Ukrainian regime is depriving them of their identity as a cultural genocide. By falsifying history, the Ukrainian regime openly proclaims itself the followers of Hitler, of collaborationists against that genocide, against that Nazism. The eastern part of Ukraine population rebelled 8 years ago. But that genocide has been continuing for 8 years by Ukrainian military, by the Ukrainian authorities. I myself visited personally the territories of the Donetsk and the Lugansk republics that Russia finally supported. I saw the museums, I saw the libraries, I saw the residential areas that were destroyed by the Ukrainian artillery. I saw how the Ukrainian army consciously, deliberately destroys the monuments to their ancestors, who won over fascism and Nazism. The city of Donetsk didn't have electricity because of the terrorist attacks by Ukraine. I'm a witness, and j'accuse. Today, the Ukrainian army daily commits crimes against humanity. They use people as a living shield. They hide them in the cultural facilities. I would like to encourage the entire world not to believe in lies. The people of Russia and Ukraine are brotherly nations. We have common, прошу вас, we have common heritage, and Russia in Ukraine is fighting against Nazism for traditional values for culture. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur le Directeur. Je passe la parole au représentant de la Syrian Development Trust Fund. Est-ce qu'il est dans la salle, s'il vous plaît? Apparemment.
I'm waiting for the representative of the Syrian Trust Fund. Is he in the room? Apparently.
Vous avez 2 minutes, Madame.
You have 2 minutes, Madame. 2 minutes, please.
Good evening, distinguished ministers, participants, observers. I must first begin by thanking the government of Mexico for hosting such a monumental event concerning the future of cultural policy. I represent the Syria Trust for Development, a national NGO working with post-war communities in Syria. So this topic and all your interventions are very relevant to the work of my organization. The effective safeguarding and documentation of cultural heritage in areas of crisis is indeed of the utmost priority. And so is fighting against the illicit trafficking of cultural property and the restitution of such property. Illegal excavations and the looting of Syria's heritage is a crime against humanity that continues until today. But the reality is that within the current context of extreme economic challenges that post-conflict countries are facing, it is difficult for communities to commit to or engage in dialogue on these topics. In post-conflict situations, it is not enough to address cultural heritage as the final end. It needs to be addressed as the means, both as a requirement and a driver for generating social and economic value that can assist in the safeguarding of cultural heritage and the recovery of local communities after war. In order for policies that promote awareness and education to be practicable and sustainable, they must also offer the tools and pathways necessary for inclusive economic growth at the community level and enable cultural heritage to work for the recovery process after crisis. This is both a duty and an opportunity with a huge potential to tangibly impact present and future generations, reduce poverty, and steer populations away from the destruction of their heritage or the devastating consequences of unorganized migration as a survival strategy. In the lead up to this conference, we were pleased to follow the regional consultations of state parties and as civil society, cultural heritage professionals in the Arab region. We were especially encouraged by the published key findings of the Arab states who voiced an aspiration to support the more systematic participation of civil society in this process. Inclusive economic growth requires tools for activating and supporting the mobilization, engagement, and commitment of governments and institutions. It also requires an effective network of actors that can manage opportunities for culture-based policies that impact local development and empower communities to be our frontline partners. And this is something that NGOs can do. And so on behalf of civil society organizations in the Arab states, I look forward to seeing this aspiration further develop into a priority for the more inclusive and effective culture-led development of our region, which can also be shared by other underrepresented regions, including Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean, where we are today. I look forward to your continued discussions over the next 2 days and building on your priorities and recommendations that will guide UNESCO's work in the coming years. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. And I'd also like to thank the panelists and observers. There's a request for right of response, and that's for 1 minute, and I give the floor to Lithuania, who has asked to exercise its right of reply. So I will be very brief. One of the U.S. presidents said, you can lie once or twice, but you can't lie all the time to everyone. The military aggression to Ukraine is a fact, and it's a fact, and it has been witnessed by various international organizations, by observers. During this war, so many things have been destroyed. We have killed or destroyed. The destruction in Ukraine are estimated to amount to a colossal sum, but one cannot put a number on human loss, but we're also talking about universities, museums, schools, infrastructure, nature, etc. So, Mr. Director of the Heritage Foundation, if I understood, one day Russia will have to pay for this unjustifiable war and barbaric war in the 21st century. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madame. So we have reached the end of this panel. And before I thank the speakers, whom I congratulate for their brilliant presentation, I would like to, in a few minutes, just summarize, not everything, of course, but I would like to say that what was stressed on the causes of the dilapidation of heritage in terms of crisis. And these causes are sanitary cause with COVID-19, climate change, a crisis, and conflicts. And also, they talked about experiences in different countries. And the advantages are the contribution of culture to peace, unity, social cohesion, and especially prevention of crises. And also the importance of culture as far as consolidation, peace. And I also took away the need to struggle or fight, despite the crisis, against looting and the illicit traffic of cultural assets, and one has to do everything possible to recover this heritage. And what was also recognized was the advantage of this heritage in terms of moving forward the economy. What were the solutions that I took away? Something that all of the panelists said is the need for cooperation, sharing experiences, and the support of UNESCO. I also took away that the promotion of promotion. As I said, cooperation was really highlighted, and also the implementation and especially the internationalization or domesticization of legal instruments. We have to ratify the instruments by all of the countries and also make them national, and so that we can prevent the loss of our resources and recover the objects have been trafficked or stolen. Also, the participation of everyone, and everyone's participation, including the populations, the indigenous populations, and the respect and promotion of cultural diversity. All of the speakers talked about this. And also, and in fact from this morning that we say it, cultural diplomacy. Cultural diplomacy has to have a significant place in the protection of cultural heritage, the development and contribution of culture to development, and also the promotion of the expression of cultural diversity. As a solution that was also mentioned was the International Fund for Cultural Diversity. I would say that the group of states join this and to have funds for diversity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have the time to open a discussion. This is what I was able to take away in terms of causes, advantages, and especially the solutions that had been proposed during this panel. And so I ask you to applaud for the panelists for their brilliant presentations, and I thank you all very much.